Hi, my name is Nicholas. Welcome to this week's Hatha practice. For props for today, I suggest having a couple hard blocks and a soft block. And we're going to start off with a breathing exercise for today. So I'll invite you to find a comfortable seated position. But if you'd rather be on your back or somewhere else, then you can just do the same thing from there. So if you're coming to a seat, just find something that feels comfortable. You can use your props. You can lean up against a wall if you like. And if you know that you have kind of a classic way of crossing the legs too, you can switch to the opposite cross just to keep things a little even for the hips. And take a moment to settle in here and take a moment to notice the parts of the body that are touching the floor and gently start to ground them down. As things ground down, gently start to lengthen the spine here. Notice where the head, the skull is relative to the rest of the spine. See if you can stack it on top. And for some of us, that means a slight tuck of the chin in towards the throat. Notice the shoulders, the shrug muscles, find a little softness there. Notice if there's anywhere else that there's maybe a little tension or some holding that you don't need. And so for this first part, if you'd like to just find stillness and be exactly as you are, then please do that. Otherwise, if you'd like to start with some alternate nostril breathing with me, I'm going to use my right hand and I'm going to curl in the pointer finger and the middle finger. So I'll use ring and pinky for one side and thumb for the other side for alternate nostril breathing. I know some people like to rest the two fingers that aren't being used on the forehead too, maybe so that you don't have to, so that the arm doesn't get tired, and you can also support the elbow with the other hand. And I'm going to talk to a count, but if you need to go a little faster or slower, feel free to ignore me as well. So when you're ready, take a deep inhale through both sides, and then block the right nostril and exhale out the left. Take a deep inhale through the left nostril, and now block it and then exhale out the right. The right side, inhale. Switch. Left side, exhale. Left side, inhale. Switch. Right side, exhale. The right side, inhale for 2, 3, 4. Switch. Left side, exhale for 2, 3, 4. Left side, inhale for 2, 3, 4. Right side, exhale for 2, 3, 4. Right side, inhale for 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side, exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side in for 2, 3, 4, 5. Right side out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Right side in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going with your breath at your pace, switching after every inhale. You're welcome to keep this going for as long as it serves you. Otherwise, the next time you inhale through the right nostril will be the last. And after that, you can release both hands to the lap or wherever they're comfortable and keep some long, deep breaths going. Feel free to stay in stillness and work with your breath for as long as you need. And only when you feel ready to move, we'll transition to a tabletop position. And if you like to lean back on the hands and maybe give the feet a little bit of a shake out here, tap for the knees, anything else. And when you're ready, you can swing the legs around, come and find your tabletop position. You can bring your soft block near the top of the mat. We'll set up for puppy dog pose. And so keeping the hips roughly on top of the knees, you can start to walk the hands forward in space and start to dip the chest down towards the floor. Now find the version of the shape that feels good for you. So if resting the forehead on the floor feels good, then great. If you want to keep the arms extended, then go for it. A few options to use your prop. One is you can bring it down for the forehead. Another option would be to bend the elbows, and I'd like to take the elbows onto the block. Bending the elbows, bring the palms together, and you can point the fingers up towards the ceiling if that feels good, or maybe a little deeper. Bringing the thumbs towards the back of the neck. Make sure that this feels okay for your shoulders, whatever you're choosing. Find that heaviness through the sternum, the center of the chest. Find that deep breath here. And if the elbows are bent, you can slowly extend them. Bring the hands to the floor and slowly walk yourself up. We'll come and find a kneeling shape. If for any reason this doesn't work for you, find any other comfortable seat. You can use your props as well. And take a moment to roll out the shoulders here a few times in each direction. Awesome. And then reach the left arm forward, take the left arm across the body, and then hook the right elbow underneath the left, the right palm facing towards your face, and start to draw that left arm a little bit closer till you find a nice stretch through the outside of the left arm. And breathe into that stretch. And gently let the arms go. If anything needs a little shake out, go for it. And then we'll take the second side. So right arm reaches forward, then across the body, and left arm can hook under. And find that stretch through the outside of the right arm. Let the side go as well, and give the arms a little shake out. Roll the shoulders a few times. And then when you're ready, come back to your tabletop position, and we'll bring the elbows down to the floor. So elbows under the shoulders, hands can be together or forearms can be parallel. Do whatever works best. And we'll set up for a forearm plank here. So take a moment and really press the forearms down. And then you can step one foot and then the other to the back of the mat. And if you'd rather be in a kneeling forearm plank, you can lower the knees. Now they'll be behind the hips instead of underneath them. Either way, keep the elbows pressing down. Find a sense of stability through the shoulders. And then find a sense of length from the heels to the crown of the head. The gaze can be towards the floor. If there's any pressure to the low back, maybe experiment with lifting the bum a little higher, and that might feel better for you. And make sure you're still breathing. Imagine those long, deep breaths that we were doing for the alternate nostril breathing. See if you can find that quality here. Last two deep breaths. And then slowly lower the knees down to the floor, lower the pelvis, and then the chest. Pause for a moment. Make sure you have space on either side. Maybe stacking palms underneath the forehead. And maybe a gentle rock of the hips, the shoulders. Give yourself a moment to soften here. As you're ready, we'll set up for a chest stretch. So reach the right arm towards the right and then right fingertips towards the top. So like an L shape for that right arm. And then you can tent the left fingertips to the floor off to the left. So just take it nice and slow here. Make sure you have your soft block nearby because it might be useful to rest the head on. And then start to press down through the left hand as you start to turn your chest open towards the left. Now see what this feels like. If you feel pinching or pain in the arm, lower down. You can also do the same expression but with the arm extended instead. Sometimes that will feel better. And trying to target the chest as best you can. Maybe the left leg will stack on top of the right, or you can step it behind. You can have it to the floor on either side. If you need some support for the head, if it's floating, then go for it. And then left arm, you can do whatever you want. You can keep it for balance. If everything feels secure through that right shoulder, you could also float that behind you or take a half bind. Breathe into the stretch. And think about exiting the pose, bringing the left hand down for support first, and then slowly unraveling down to center. You can take a pause on the belly here if you want to rock a little or anything else, then go for it. And take a few deep breaths. And we'll set up the second side, so as you're ready, you can cactus the left arm to the left. And tent the right fingertips to the floor and start to press down with the right hand, turning the chest open towards the right. And this side may feel completely different. So if you need to change it up or, just change your position a little bit, go for it if you need to add props. And then generally mirroring whatever you did on the first side. So if you floated the top leg behind you or touched it down, maybe do the same here. And some support for the head. And again, if it feels okay, you might think about floating that right arm behind you too. Find some deep breaths into the chest. And slowly bring the right hand to the floor, then the right leg can join it, and roll down onto the belly. And again, we'll pause here for a few breaths, so any expression of the shape, find a little movement or choose stillness. And only when you feel ready, we'll transition to a child's pose, so you can press up to a tabletop position. And take a moment to set yourself up however you like, so you can do knees together or knees wide apart. Have any props nearby that you need, and then slowly melt the chest down to the floor. Arms can be extended forward or back or elbows bent. Maybe a little rock to settle yourself in, and then come and find your stillness. From your child's pose, only when you feel ready, we'll transition to downward facing dog. So you can keep your arms reaching forward, pull the body up to a tabletop position, and then tuck the toes, lift the knees, and press the hips up and back. And take a moment to stretch out the back line of the legs, give the hips a little movement. And check in with the hands. Keep them actively pressing to the floor to find some stability for the shoulders. And keeping space across the shoulder blades, across the back body, in addition to space across the chest. Only when you feel ready, come and find your stillness in the shape. You can keep a bend to the knees if you like. Keep a heavy quality through the spine. Let the head be heavy. Awesome. And then when you're ready with an inhale breath, come forward towards plank pose. And with an exhale, lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes. And then bring the hands to the sides of the chest. And press the toenails down. With an inhale breath, lift the chest up any amount. And with your exhale, soften back down. The whole inhale to lift up. The whole exhale to soften. And 3 more, nice and slow. And lowering down as you complete your last one. And then inhale, press to tabletop. And with your exhale, find downward facing dog once again. And from here, we'll lift the right leg up behind, take a deep inhale breath. And as you exhale, step the right foot forward between the hands, lower the left knee down to the floor. And you can pat the left knee if it needs it. And take a moment to find your shape and your balance. And when you're ready, come on up. So check in with your stance. You can lengthen or shorten it. You can widen your base if things feel a little wobbly side to side. And then from here, reach the arms up towards the ceiling. A little softness for the shrug muscles. Bend the left elbow and bring the left hand towards that right shoulder, the back of the neck. And then take the right hand to cup the left elbow. Now take a deep inhale here. Imagine you're reaching up with the left elbow. Find length through the left-hand side. As you exhale, arc over towards the right, and we'll pause here. So you can stay right here. You can also bring the right hand to the right hip if that feels more stable for you. And breathe into that stretch through the whole left-hand side. All right, inhale breath, come back up to center. And then exhale breath, you can release your arms. Just give the shoulders a little roll. For the next shape, we'll set up for a high lunge. So with the back toes tucked, lift the back knee up, and then find a height that feels appropriate. If you need to adjust again, go for it. This time we'll do a humble lunge, so you can interlace the hands behind the back, or you can bring hands to hips. Deep inhale here, puff up the chest, lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, hinge forward for a humble lunge. You can bring the right shoulder on top of or just inside the right knee. The legs stay active here. The bum is pointing back in space. And if you like, you can reach the arms up towards the ceiling any amount. Notice if there's a tendency to hold the breath to help with balancing. See if you can keep breathing deeply. All right, one last inhale. With your exhale, you can bring the fingertips to the floor. You can lower the back knee back down. Now we'll heel toe the right foot to the right edge of the mat, setting a lizard lunge. So right toes might be pointing a little bit towards the right. And then see what this feels like here. Maybe bringing the hands down to the floor. You could also walk the hands forward a little bit to dip the chest down. If the option is there to lower one or maybe both elbows down, maybe onto your props if the floor is a little far away. And keep listening to that right ankle, knee, and hip. And if they're asking for something a little different, feel free to change it up. Awesome. If you're on the elbows, you can come onto the hands just for the transition. So we're going to set up for a side plank, and we're going to modify it so using that right foot a little bit for support. You can start to heel toe the right foot, maybe about halfway down the mat, and then lower down onto that left elbow. And from here, you can lift the back toes or back knee up. You can still keep the right hand for support, and then spin so that you're on the pinky toe edge of that left foot. Notice what the hips are doing, keep them elevated, and you can use the right foot for this as much as you need as well. So hips nice and high. Notice what's happening with the left shoulder. If the shoulder is ahead of the elbow, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it might be hard to find that strength and really press it to the floor. Right hand can be at the hip, up overhead, the ceiling. So find the expression that works for you and take a few deep breaths. Last two. Awesome. At the end of your next exhale, you can slowly lower that left hip down to the floor. You can use the right hand for support. And then from here, you can release the right leg as well, stack it on top of the left. We're going to set up for a quad stretch here. So you can stay up high on the elbow, or you can lower yourself down, maybe catch the head or rest the head on the bicep. You can do whatever feels comfortable. If things feel a little wobbly here and you feel like you might spill out, you can bend the bottom knee a little bit too. And then when you're ready, bend the top knee and catch that top foot. Start to hug that right heel towards the bum, and then notice what the hip is doing. See if you can keep the right hip stacked on top of the left one as best you can. Notice if there's anything else here that you don't need that you can soften. Just a few more deep breaths. All right. If you're holding the right foot, you can let it go and then roll yourself down onto the belly. And from the belly, we're going to set up for locust pose. Just for starters, if doing an active back bend isn't working for you, you're welcome to come to cobra pose for something in between, or you can find sphinx pose with the elbows underneath the shoulders. If you're coming with me to locust pose, see where you want to get started. Maybe you want the hands by the hips to the floor. You could also come straight in with the hands interlaced behind you. Just make sure that whatever you're choosing is working for you. And for starters, press maybe the hands, maybe the pelvis down towards the floor. Firm up the legs. Imagine that you could zip the inside line of the legs. Really find that energy to hug them together. And then that length for the neck. And then whenever you're ready with an inhale breath, lift everything you can up off the floor, and then pause here with the exhale. Think about lifting long rather than lifting high. So it's not so much about a deep back bend, but finding strength in the back bend. And then breathe here. Imagine a sense of lightness each time you inhale, like you're floating. And then soften anything you don't need as you exhale. Last couple of deep breaths, but you can lower as soon as you need to. All right, lowering down as you feel ready. You might stack the palms underneath the forehead and then slide the left knee off to the left, almost like tree pose, but on the belly, helping your low back to release, maybe a gentle rock of the hips as well. If the left knee is bent, you can re-extend it, and then we'll switch over to the second side. So right knee out towards the right. And settle in here. Re-extending the right leg as you feel ready. And then in about 8 breaths, we'll meet up in downward facing dog. So between now and there, see where you need to be. You're welcome to come to rock pose or child's pose. If you want movement, maybe a few rounds of cat-cow, or you're welcome to find a flow if that's part of your practice. Maybe even straight to downward facing dog. So be wherever you need to be for the next few breaths, stillness or movement. Any way you like to get there, find your downward facing dog as you feel ready. From your downward facing dog, inhale breath, shift forward to plank, and then exhale breath, lower all the way down. Hands stay by the chest, untuck the toes, inhale breath, peel the chest up, and soften down. And 4 more. Last couple, nice and slow. After your last exhale, inhale, press up to tabletop, downward facing dog. To transition, lift the left leg up behind you, take a deep inhale, and then with your exhale, step the left foot forward. You can lower the right knee down to the floor. And take a moment to set up your low lunge, and when you're ready, you can come on up. Adjust anything you need, add some padding, you can change up your stance, and then reach the arms up towards the ceiling. This time bending the right elbow, right hand towards the left shoulder, right hand to cup the right elbow. With an inhale, lengthen from the right knee all the way up to the right elbow, and with your exhale, arc over towards the left and pause. And if it feels like you're going to spill out, then again, maybe left hand to the left hip instead, or you can take that left foot a little bit wider. Breathe into that whole right side. right, inhale breath, come on up. And then release the arms, give the shoulders a little shake out here. And fingertips to the floor, lift the back knee up. And then when you're ready with a strong belly, come on up and we'll find this high lunge. So check in if there's anything you need to adjust. And then once again, we'll interlace hands behind the back or take the hands to the hip. If you're interlacing the hands, switch all the fingers by one so that it's a slightly awkward clasp. Inhale, breath, lengthen the spine, puff up. And as you exhale, hinge forward to your humble lunge. So left shoulder inside or just on top of the left knee. Keep the feet active here. If you're interlacing the hands, option to reach the fist up towards the ceiling. And then breathe. As you're ready, release the fingertips and then that right knee down towards the floor. And then heel toe that left foot to the left toes point out to an angle that feels comfortable for the ankle, the knee, and the hip on that side. And see if this side maybe needs something a little different. If you want to sway the hips a little bit, just check in. And then you might start to walk the hands forward. You might lower the elbows. And again, you can use any props you have around for this. Finding your expression of the lizard lunge and settling into it. Awesome. If you're on the elbows, come onto the hands just for the transition. We'll set up that side plank on the second side so you can heel toe the left foot maybe about halfway down the mat and then bring the right elbow to the floor. And then don't worry about where the shin is pointing. Find something that feels strong and stable. Maybe the elbow just ahead of the shoulder. And then lift the back knee up, spin onto the pinky toe edge of the right foot, and then lift the hips a little higher. You can use the left foot. And the left arm, whatever you did on the first side, maybe mirror it here. And if it needs to stay on the floor, then go for it. Find your deep breaths. Last few deep breaths. Awesome. You can bring the left hand down to the floor, slowly lower that right hip down, and then you can stack the left leg on top of the right. You can lower down onto the elbow or maybe to catch the head. And again, if things feel a little wobbly, bend that bottom knee out a little bit, and then we'll bend the top knee to find that quad stretch. So the left knee is pointing straight down, but keep the left hip on top of the right one as best you can, hugging the left heel towards the bum. Find that stretch through the quad, through the hip flexor on the left side. Imagine you could send the breath there to soften that space. Gently release the left leg here, and then roll onto your belly. Now we'll set up here, so you're welcome to take a second round of locust, just like we did the first side. If you did sphinx or something else on the first side, you're welcome to do that here as well. One more option is to do bow pose instead. So if you're coming to either of the other two options, you can come in and out as you feel ready. If you're coming with me to bow pose, we'll hold it for, I think I'll talk through maybe 7 breaths, but know that you're always welcome to come down sooner. You can breathe faster, slower, so just make it whatever you need it to be. And if you're coming with me, you can start by bending the knees to catch the feet. And sometimes it's necessary to take the knees wide so you can catch the feet, but just bring them back to center after. And start by softening everything to the floor and really make that connection between the pelvis and the floor. And when you're ready with an inhale, lift everything you can up off the floor. Start to kick the feet into the hands to find a slightly deeper chest opener. And then imagine you're breathing like we did for the alternate nostril breathing, and I'm going to do a count. So if you're with me, take an inhale for 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do 3 more with your breath. And when you're ready, gently release everything down to the floor. You can stack palms under the forehead. Let the body get really heavy. Maybe give yourself a gentle rock. We'll set up a little differently now. So for a counter stretch, you can walk your feet towards the bottom right corner of the mat, and then take your torso and point it towards the top right. So like banana pose, but on the belly. Arms can be extended or elbows bent. You can also turn the head a little differently. Sometimes that will feel more comfortable for the shoulder blades. And breathe into that stretch through the whole left-hand side. Bring the torso back to center, bring the legs back to center, and then take the feet towards the bottom left corner, and the torso towards the top left corner. And find that stretch through the whole right side. Walking everything back to midline, and then see where you want to be for the next 8 or 10 breaths. Child's pose, tabletop, flow, cat-cow, down dog. Anywhere you need, find your stillness. And take a moment to check in with the body, find your breath. Wherever you are, as you feel ready, and come and join me in a seat. And you can make sure you have your props nearby because they might be handy. You can start by extending the legs out in front, maybe giving the knees a little tap to the floor. And then if you're using a soft block today, you can come and sit up off of the edge of it. We'll set up for a forward fold. For this first one, we're going to do two. The first one, the focus will be on that length in the spine. So rather than rounding, keeping a little bit more of a straight spine. So for this one, I'll invite you to start off with the knees, maybe with a generous bend, and then take a deep inhale, really lengthen here. And with an exhale, start to hinge forward and bring the belly and the chest onto the thighs. So you can bring the hands along for support as well. If you like to let the head hang heavy, go for it. And if you're not quite ready to settle, you can also pulse a few times. But see if you can keep that connection of the front body onto the top of the legs. And if you feel like coming a little deeper, you can start by sliding the heels a little further away and just see how that feels. But see if you can keep that connection. Notice what's happening through the back body here. If you do start to experience anything you describe as pain, then you can gently back yourself out. If there's anything you don't need that you can soften, then go for it. And be with your breath. As you feel ready to, from your forward fold, you can use the support of the hands and an inhale breath to slowly make your way up. And then see what feels like a nice release, maybe to swish the feet a little bit side to side, maybe some gentle twists. When you feel ready, we'll set up for the second fold. So this one a little bit different. You can still sit off the edge of your prop, but this time we'll bring the soles together and set up butterfly legs. So feet can be close to the pelvis or a little further away. And if you like to use your hard blocks to support the hips, then go for it. So for this fold, more of a yin style fold. So rather than folding with a flat back, we're going to round in, really stretch out those back muscles that run all along the spine. So for this one, you can start off by bringing the chin in towards the chest Then start to round from the upper back, then down to the mid back, to the lower back. And see where you end up here. The arms can come along for support wherever you need them, if you need to catch the forehead or anything like that. And again, make sure it feels like a pain-free expression. And soften everything you don't need here. Let the spine be heavy. There is no rush to move, and if you'd like to stay here a little while longer, you're welcome to. As you feel ready, with the support of the hands, gently unravel the spine. And stacking the skull on top when you're ready. And soften the shrug muscles here. And take a moment to puff up the chest. And we'll set up for a counter stretch, so a few different options. You can start by bringing the knees together and planting the feet to the floor. If you're on a prop, you can come off of it. Set up the hands, so hands roughly in line with the hips. Fingers can point away in any direction, so see what works best for the shoulders here. And bum doesn't have to leave the floor. With an inhale, start to peel the chest open any amount, maybe lift the gaze. And then you can either stay here or with your next inhale breath, start to lift the pelvis up and press the belly button towards the ceiling for a reverse tabletop. And take a few deep breaths in either expression. When you feel ready, chin towards the chest, lower the bum down to the floor, and we'll lower all the way down onto the back, so just make sure you have clear space behind you. And once you touch down, it might feel nice to bring the knees into the chest and wrap the arms around the shins. Give yourself a hug, a gentle rock side to side. And when you're ready, we'll set up for a twist. So I'm going to talk through 2 knee twists, but if you prefer something else, then go for it. If you have your soft block nearby, option to bring it between the legs. And scoot the hips to the left a few inches, lower the knees down towards the right. Make sure the shoulders feel supported. Arms can be in a T shape or somewhere else. And if you like to take the gaze down towards the left, then go for it. Breathe into your twist. Bringing the head back to center as you're ready. You can lift the knees back up to center as well. And then scoot the hips over to center, then to the right. Lower the knees down towards the left for your second side. The arm expression can stay the same. If you need to change anything up, then go for it. Maybe gaze down towards the right. Gently bring the head back to center and lift the knees back up, scoot the hips to midline. If you're using a block, you can remove it, bring the knees back into the chest and wrap the arms around them. Give yourself that squeeze and rock side to side. If you'd like to find happy baby, you can reach between the knees, catch hold of the feet, the ankles or shins, maybe feet point up towards the ceiling. And you can choose stillness, or you can keep a rock going side to side. Just mindful of the low back. If you need to point the feet out in front instead of up, then go for that. And then when you feel ready, you can let go of the feet, gently extend the legs long down the mat. We'll set up for Shavasana, so you can choose any comfortable symmetrical shape for the body. If you want to use any of your props for support, then go for it. Take your time to get comfortable, and then option to take a few rounds of the alternate nostril breathing. So if you'd like to come with me for that, then you can curl the pointer and middle finger in and take a deep breath through both nostrils. And then block the right one, exhale out the left. Left side, inhale for 2, 3, 4. Switch. Right side, exhale for 2, 3, 4. Same side, inhale for 2, 3, 4, 5. Switch. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right side out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right side in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Left side in. Keep going for as long as you like. When you're ready, release. Gently deepen the breath to reawaken the body. And from wherever they are, bring one hand to the heart space, the other hand to the belly. And together we'll take a deep inhale through the nose and a deep sigh. Again, deep inhale. Once more. And then find a little movement. Wiggle the wrists, the ankles, the hands, the feet, the hips, the head. And whenever you're ready, roll down onto one side and take a pause for a breath or two. With the support of the hands, come up to find any comfortable seated position, and you can use any of the props that you have around. Take a moment to find your seat, to settle the hips to the floor, adjust anything else you need. And take a moment to notice the parts of the body that are touching the floor, gently ground, and gently lengthen through the spine. Take these last few moments of your practice just to check in with the body, just to take that scan through and notice. You can connect the hands in front of the heart, bow the chin in towards the chest. And thank you for sharing your breath and your energy today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me for your Hatha practice. My name is Nicholas. If you have any questions, please reach out and enjoy the rest of your day.